What's up, folks? Welcome to Nino's Corner.tv. I'm joined with Dannion Brinkley, the one and only Dannion Brinkley, author of the book Saved by the Light, where he basically was struck by lightning, crossed over to the other side, and came back with knowledge of what future events to come. Right, Dannion?
Right.
So, you called me today. We were talking over text today. You said you felt like this was a pretty urgent message, and that we're in it right now. And we were talking about this before we went live, and I was saying, 2024, Danny, and that's the year that we're all going to have to really deal with our own demons and really take a hard look into the mirror. I've even said this on my other programs, but you said this is happening like right now. And before we went live, I mean, I was just telling you what kind of day I had, and it's been a rough month for me. But you're saying this is universal. This is happening with everybody right now. Everyone's having to deal with their own gunk right now.
I agree 100%, and it's why a new era is being born. Everybody wants everything, David, to stay the same. Okay. I've always said, since I was struck by lightning and received this information from beings of light, that the battle for the souls of humankind we've been fought in healthcare. So when Paul Perry and I wrote Saved by the Light, we took the events that were the quote unquote prophecies, and we put them in boxes of knowledge. We're right now operating in box 4. Okay, so box 4 was all about what's happening in the Middle East, and it would be about if you believed in God, let's say that you were going to believe in God, and you realized the definition of God was being established in the Holy Land now. And you and I had a conversation about Christmas Eve in Gaza in the Holy Land. Well, think about that as a fact about God. Who God is being decided in the Middle East today. It's either going to be Jehovah, the God of the old, by the Israelis' belief, no Messiah, or it's going to be Allah, the God of Islam. Okay, so that right now is what spiritually everybody's facing. So one of the things I didn't put in the boxes of knowledge was this event. And I wanted to put it out there for 2 reasons. Number one, if these things are true and they happen, it means there's a life after death. Because where I got this information was from when I was dead, and the 13 beings and that whole story that's in book Saved by the Light are light streamers. Well, here's what I want to say. I believe that there will be an event that will happen in the Middle East where a group of people, mostly Palestinians, will have a vision or a hologram or a vision or an apparition of Mother Mary, like Fatima. And all of a sudden, there'll be massive, hundreds or thousands of them will have that same apparition and vision, and they will convert to Christianity. Because which
would be a good thing, right? I mean,
well, I go 2 places in that, David. I believe that when the divine force that I think of as God, I believe that God wouldn't do something like that, since you and I have talked, and I said the only thing that could ever stop this is we put a buffer or a group of people in between the two. Well, they never were going to do that, but I said it would be blue and silver uniforms, and I didn't know the United Nations in 1977 had blue and silver uniforms. I didn't know that. But if that didn't happen, then that divine force would do something to birth a consciousness about the Christ consciousness.
Or could it be the government playing a hologram of some kind of technology being used to show Mother Mary?
You think the same way I think, David? Or what happens when the psychology, you can't have mass hypnosis in that mindset, so there's validity. But I also look at it from an intelligent side of view, and if I was Hamas or I was that group, I would perpetuate that story so that all of a sudden the Israelis were killing Christians. Okay.
So is this a vision you saw on the other side, or is it just something that you now are
1977? 1977, but I never, a lot of the things I saw, I never wrote down because first I had no grip on it. I had no understanding whatsoever of it. But when I see the things playing themselves out, knowing that this haven't happened or I haven't found that it's happened, I wanted to put it out there because, hey, everybody, this is about the definition of God in the Holy Land. Okay, that's what this is about. And who is God? Both war and factions said that God gave it to them, and it was their ancestral homeland, and they wanted it back. That's what both people say. Okay, so when you're in women and children on both sides, I'm against both sides, then the divine force would create something like this to make people pay attention. If these people are converted, and that's what's happening, then the whole mindset of who's fighting changes. And Christianity has a moment. The only thing that scares me about it, David, and I want people to look at it from this point of view, if it's Mother Mary, okay, that's Catholicism. And if you believe you're in the final days, quote unquote, then that's the one world religion. All of a sudden, in the middle of all of this stuff, the one world religion based on Catholicism takes root in the Holy Land. Now, if this happens, every human being that believes there is a God must define who that God is in their life and define the rules at which that God interacts with them and they interact with their God. That's what's missing. This is what's missing. We're all caught up in the collapse of America or the Western consciousness or the petrodollar. It's collapsing. Okay, everything you think is going away, and a new system is going to be brought. And if
It's
you
about who controls the new system, though.
Well, the point of it is, I agreed with you, but the point, David, is this: to realize it's a spiritual war. It's not about anything but your relationship with God, and you have a chance to define it equal to murdering women and children, and on both sides is going on in the Holy Land. And if they have this apparition, and it's a mass apparition, whether it's because it's going to be in the dream state or they're all going to see it, and I'm talking hundreds are going to see it or thousands are going to see it. And it changes the whole mindset of what's happening between Israel and Hamas. And if this happens, what it means is we're in the final stages of reality as we know it. We're in the final stages. Everybody in their heart already knows this, David. That's what's going on. You subconsciously feel the shift in the energetic patterns. And because you want things to, and this is everybody, you want things to stay the way they were. Okay, well, it's not going to happen.
The America we knew is long gone. The world we knew is long gone. The old world is crumbling to our feet, gone.
Agreed. And we must accept that as a point of view. Okay.
Does it have anything to do as well as we're moving into Aquarius or I mean, it seems like everything's coming to a reset right now, a new time, a new era, a new shift is forming right now. I mean, the old paradigm, we're watching it crumble. We're watching Hollywood fall apart. We're watching the government fall apart. People's personal lives are falling apart. Everything's just like out of the ashes rise the phoenix. I don't know. This is just
wait. Well, listen to me. We win, okay? The spiritual focused human being is the winner because that's what it's going to be about. And it's all going to focus on a little group of some Palestinians who a lot of them are Christian anyway. They're Christians. Okay. A lot of them are Christians anyway. Okay. And this is going to, if this happens, I haven't seen it happen, David. That's why I wanted to get out on it would have happened around a full moon, and this is the full moon. Okay. It would have happened because that's when the energetic pattern is at its best. When you say born of Aquarius, so I always say this. I say, let me ask you something. Do you think that astrology or that the planets influence you? And people say, no, I don't believe in all that. I said, well, let me ask you something. Does the moon affect the oceans of the world? Does the moon affect the oceans of the world? The answer is yes, high tide. Well, your body's 72.6% water. So how could it not affect you? And if you ever go down to an emergency room on a full moon, most of the time that's going to be reinforced. So I believe if you define it as a birth of an age, okay, I believe that that age is being birthed, and I think that we're in the 13th year of it. Okay, I think that this is in its 13 years, and I'm a big Maya fan. You know that I'm a big Maya fan.
Yeah.
So the Maya was December the 21st, 2012. Okay, and the Maya said all things not done in integrity would collapse. And the future, this new period, would be there would be no secrets. Okay, now this is what they
power and ethics are going to collide, correct?
Exactly.
And it's going to be like two trains going 1,000 miles an hour, boom, colliding, and ethics will be the one that prevails.
Your relationship and your way of serving, how you define God. How, if you are one with God, what do you do that honors that God? Because what's happening in the Holy Land tonight, and that's defining who God is in the lives of the Israelis, Hamas, Palestinians. That's what's defining who God is in their life. And they're fighting for a piece of dirt they said God gave them. People not paying attention to that are making horrendous mistakes. This has to be stopped. It has to be stopped.
So you believe that during a full moon, may not be this one, you think it will be this one?
I do.
That they're going to see an apparition of Mother Mary.
Mm-hmm. A bunch of them. Now,
is this going to be on mainstream news, or is this going to be something that, I mean, are they going to record it with their phones and put it all over the internet? I mean, is there going to be proof of this, or I mean, what?
Oh, there'll be proof of it. It'll make it to. There is no way that's not going to make it to the news, David. There's no way. Okay, there's no way. You cannot have. You can look at Fatima. Look at Fatima. What happened with three little kids at Fatima? But it was seen by a bunch of other people at the same time. Well, can you hide that? Not in these days.
No, but you see where my mind's going with this? Is it going to be? Is it truly going to be God? Is it going to be the government? Putting this apparition out there with hologram technology. What is it really going to be?
Okay.
I mean, are you getting intel from this, or are you getting? Is this from the visions you had when you crossed over?
This is from the. No, this is from the vision. This is from the vision that this would happen because the divine force would intercede in such a way if people didn't put a border between them and create a peace force to stop this insanity, that the divine would show a way. And when I was looking at it, then if you look at it and it is Mother Mary, the thing that makes me suspect, because what I thought it was an apparition of a religious icon. I didn't have sense enough in 1977 to understand Fatima. I didn't have sense enough to understand the apparitions of Mother Mary. I didn't have any of that. So that's how I wrote it. But as I watch these things unfold, David, as I watch them unfold, if this happens, it only means this, that the divine force, in watching what's going on here, has interceded to stop the war. You can't kill Christians at the same rate that it's happening now, and it's going to wake us up. And that waking people up, for me, is to say that's one more thing, that there's a life after death. There's one more thing. And that's what I'm after, for people to believe that this is not all there is, and to get a grip on themselves and look at their spiritual self. I've been forced for 50 years to look at my spiritual self. I have nowhere to go. I have to look at it from that point of view. So when I called you, I'm going out on a limb, okay? And I'm going to keep looking to see if it's happened. I'm going out on a limb. Why? The stress that people are under now as this cycle begins to crunch. I'm in South Carolina because it's Super Tuesday. I fight for the rights of veterans. And wherever that's going to be, I'm here positioning myself for veterans' rights and looking at legislature and watching the ground game. I'm watching it. But when I look at the spiritual place that we are, if people look at it from what I'm saying and they take comfort in that reality, if it's the hologram and it's Catholicism and it's the one world government where all three religions are coming together, all three religions will come together in one place in the Holy Land. What does that tell you? The establishment of a one world religion. Okay, so there is two ways to look at it. I look at it like you look at it. I know it's going to happen. Okay, how does it happen is up to each person to decide. Okay, I'm not going to say what I don't know. I just know it's going to happen. And I just think that that's excited, David. I watched the world fall apart. I'm having to adapt. Okay, but to be alive at this time and to know it's a spiritual war, and to be alive and to know I knew what I was getting myself into before I came back here or before I was born, and I made the decision to be present at this time. So whatever it is, deal it up and give it, just let me have it the best you got. Give me everything you got. Okay, just come on down here and get you some, because we are spiritual beings. And if you realize two things, the big lie is this: in the spiritual world, there's no such thing as helplessness and loneliness. There is no such thing. You're never helpless and never lonely. When you come over here, you accept helplessness and loneliness when you're born and when you die, and loneliness based on how you choose to interact with people around you, and humans need physical and human interaction. So when you have loneliness and helplessness, it creates a level of consciousness called despair. Some people say hopelessness, but I call it despair, and you are easily manipulated. Okay, you easily manipulated, and that's where people are. That's where the nerves and the frantic, if you're a caregiver and you're taking care of somebody, you want to know why they're being the way they are and their personalities are changing, is because they know inwardly what's happening, and they're facing their mortality, and they're watching their world disappear. For people who are in transition, they're finding a certain piece of resonance with it because they have lived their life in a certain joy. And I see a lot more happiness in people passing than I've seen in the last 20 years. It's tough because of healthcare, but I see a sense of harmony and happiness in those who are leaving. And you know what's really funny?
I'm dealing with it right now with my parents.
And you're hopeless, and you're helpless to do anything about it, as they are not facing their spiritual self. They're holding on, and this is normal, okay? But it's overemphasized now, David, because the battle for the souls of humankind is fought in healthcare. Because if you want to know what the biblical senses of the mark of the beast and all that, think about this. The mark of the beast, 666. Okay, then if you don't think of evil as a person, you think of it as a system. Okay,
the beast system.
Then your credit score is 3 numbers. You cannot buy, sell, or trade. That's 3 numbers. And your credit score is going to go to your social score, which is what the Chinese do now. So is that evil? Without any question. Okay. And then the real ID to fly, you can't fly with that's about to come into existence now after 10 years of them being afraid to initiate it, but now they're initiating it. So all these things that set as a system, but if all 3 religions come to effect in the Middle East, so many people are going to say it didn't happen, and they just get them to do that. Or maybe it really is that. All I know is it's going to happen. And then it's up to everyone who's looking at it to see whether it's really true or whether it's really fake. Because if it's true, then the divinity has made a play. If it's fake, they have created a position to solve one world government with all 3 major religions. Catholicism, I am not a big Catholic follower, and I see problems with them going broke over issues with children. But it makes me stop and think of that. I get a chance to live and to see it's happening and be a part of the transformation. All of us have to be a part of the transformation into the new golden era. And that 1,000 years, the whole game is get to 1,000 years of prosperity and happiness. Well, what do we got to do to get there? What do we have to do to get there is what I'm after.
This system has to come down. Everything.
It's going to. But
Yeah.
why?
We're watching.
Like the Maya said, all things not done into integrity must collapse. Okay, that's what the Maya said. In order for the new, and they've been saying this 1,000 years. Okay, must collapse. And this age, there will be no secrets. Look at cameras. Look at microphones. Look at all kinds. Your refrigerator can do intel on you. Your car can record your conversations. Okay, and every conversation is being recorded. So the Maya seem to know what they're talking about. I mean, there are so many ways to look at it. Birth of the Aquarian age. I don't look at it like that. I look at it that who we are as physical beings has to face the challenge in a world of our spiritual identity. Who God is in our life and who you think God is in your life is being decided in the Middle East today, not in a future event, but today. And if this vision happens, all three religions are going to come together and have to decide. They find a place to stop and find peace and find retribution, or they find a way to work together. We're there. They have destroyed the northern Gaza. It's destroyed. What happens? I think there'll be a revival. If this happens, I think there'll be a revival. Okay, and I think it's a good thing. But then once again, why wasn't it Christ, or why wasn't it, something more relationship to, I thought, well, why Mary? Well, Mary has been shown to appear in apparitions all over the world. All over the world, this thing has appeared. There's been Fatima, and then the people in Brazil and the Mexico, the
Lady of Guadalupe,
Lady of Guadalupe, all those things come into play. And how would it psychologically affect the world, or the religious world of the Western consciousness? How would it affect it? Well, it would be an apparition of Mother Mary. So if it comes, I'm going to hunt it. I'm going to find it, because it would happen now, because the energetic pattern of the full moon would dictate it. And what I want people to take from it is this: there's a life after death, and nobody really dies. And all the things that we do that they use to try to scare us into believing that we're going to die and being worried about what's going to happen after it, like where your parents are. Okay, they want to numb themselves. And always remember this, David, remember this. A person facing age and a person in transition needs three things. And if you consistently manage these three things, the world around them changes. Number one, they need to know that their life has value, that your life is valuable, and that what they've done and why you're there is because their life had value to you. Number two, they need closure. What's left? What's next? What do you want to do? What do you feel like doing? If it's watch TV, okay, but you define it. What's next? That structures closure. Third, permission. Permission. It's okay to let go. If you keep these three psychologies in your mind, you will see a whole lot better way to help them than you see by allowing them to run and control their life. Because remember, the more you lose control of your life, the more desperately you try to hold on to it. And that's where you are. Okay. And then that irritates you and that frightens you, and everybody gets hysterical, and it creates nerve-wracking energies. I live in this every day, David. I'm hospice. I have 46 years in hospice. But I want people to look at their spiritual self. If you're not going to die, everybody, if you're not going to die, who are they scaring? Who are you scaring? And how many of us have come back? And now think about this. Let's say that all those things that they say of of the heart, that taking certain shots and certain things create mitochondrial happening in the body and in the heart. You have a pericarditis and endocarditis and all that stuff. How many people you think is going to be revived? How many people are going to be flatlined? Watch how fun God is. How many people, David, you think is going to flatline, and they're going to flatline, and it's going to be pericarditis or endocarditis or some kind of stuff growing in their veins, blood clots. Well, what happens when you start resuscitating so many of those people, and they all start telling that story? They all start having a near-death experience, and everybody's going to have a near-death experience. And always remember, if they didn't have a life review, it wasn't a real near-death experience. Always remember, the life review is the give in the next journey. I know that this is a little crazy, but you have people on your show that's a whole lot crazier than me.
I'm known for that. I'm the Jerry Springer of the internet. No.
I watch a lot of your shows. I enjoy them. I know a lot of those people. I know a lot of those people's crazy. Okay, but that's okay. Whatever it takes, David, to open somebody's spiritual heart, to open up their spiritual self, to take a good look at who they are. A great, powerful, and mighty spiritual being with dignity, direction, and purpose. Means the only thing that can ever go wrong is you allow something to affect your dignity, which will skew your direction and your purpose. And what's the number one thing that affects people's dignity? Their opinion of themselves. You're a great, powerful, and mighty spiritual being with dignity, direction, and purpose. And the only thing that can never go wrong is you allow something to affect your dignity, which skews your direction and your purpose. The main thing that people do is their opinion of themselves is what creates this kind of confusion that's happening to great, powerful, and mighty spiritual beings. You would not be here if you weren't the very best at what your job is. You would not be here breathing. Everybody who's breathing here now, and everybody that's born now after 2012, all these people are magical forebearers of the world that's coming. Okay, they're the world that's coming. These are the forebearers. These are the crystal children and the indigo children and the children that you must contain and control. But that's what has to happen. But they'll never be able to do it. Their system is going to crumble. Just the system that's trying to overtake the spiritual nature of humanity will crumble. Just like the old age will crumble. Nothing can hold up to people recognizing their divinity. Nothing, because the only thing that's absolutely impugnable, humanly true, spiritually true, is that you are a spiritual being. That is absolute. And you can add religions to it. You can add facades to it. You can find stories to it. You can create legends to it. It won't change a thing about whether the premise is true. There's not many other things that you can say about who you are that's greater and more encompassing than the fact that you're a spiritual being.
Having a human experience, right?
Well, creating one, not having it, creating it. This is the worst thing about a spiritual being. You are your habits. The world that you create are the habits you have. And in those habits, you manifest the world around you. Okay, and that's what happens. And then collectively, people who have some of the same habits of you coalesce with you to create a reality. Okay, but it's habits and patterns that you create that manifest your reality, not somebody else's. Based on somebody else's, you may do it, but that's not what controls your reality. I control my reality. I'm really good at some things. I'm half-ass at other things. And I'm terrible at a couple, but it's still me having this experience and trying to create a divinity perspective in human form with all the problems that come with it. And the battle for the souls of humankind is being fought in healthcare today. I saw an ad about how many people signed up for affordable healthcare. Okay. And more people are signed up for affordable health care, which is a good thing. but not under the premise that it's created by. But it's still, I'm a universal healthcare believer. I just don't like it because healthcare is capitalism. It's about making money. It isn't about curing anything. It's not about doing anything. It's about maintaining a system and creating drugs and pharmacology to help create it. I think our biggest problem is when they invented penicillin, because we went from human beings to chemical beings, and now we're into quantum beingness. Okay, because when penicillin came into existence, immortality became something more than what Ponce de Leon was looking for and what Gilgamesh was looking for, and so many other great rulers have hunted the fountain of youth.
Oh, youth.
And now they're going to create the fountain of youth is uploading you onto the internet. Okay, here's another one.
Transhumanism, right?
Well, here's another one. Transhumanism. Here's another one. I always said that this is something that Edison talked about and Westinghouse talked about, that one day, because it's all frequencies based on Tesla's stuff, 3, 6, and 9, that people would be able to communicate with their past relatives, because it's got to be, they have to be in a dimension, and that dimension is a certain frequency between this frequency and another frequency. Well, now here they are. ANI is recording the voice of the person. If they hear a recording, they can record the voice of that person and create conversation with a dead relative, and it'll sound just like them. Okay, now think about the lonely, desperate people who think somebody died and left them. And what would they do and pay? If you'll pay 3 minutes to listen to sex talk or a psychic, $4.99 a minute, then why would you not want to talk to your mom or brother or husband? And you look at how that's happening. I think that's funny. That's just crazy, but it's still happening.
I mean, there's people that, that, what is it, a toxicologist? Is that, no, it's I'm sorry, it's where they stuff, where they stuff animals that you've killed.
Taxidermist.
Taxidermist. That's a taxidermist. There's people that do that with their pets, and I'm not saying that's, hey, everyone has to get over it the way they got to get over it, but I find that a little bit,
But there are people, there are people who are cloning their pets, David.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
They're cloning them.
Okay? You're right. I mean, they just can't let go. That's the art of life, right? Letting go.
The part of it is realize it has a specific time frame. It has a specific lifespan.
Yeah.
This is what it does. And you have X amount of time to get here, get your job done, and get out. It's not forever. It's not everything there is. It's not all there is. It's not the end all be all. That's ridiculous. Okay. It's a job. You come do your job. Okay. And in doing your job, it has a punch card. If you're breathing, when I wrote 10 things to know before you go, what's the number one cause of death? Well, birth is the number one cause of death. And if you're breathing, you're leaving. Okay, so if you're breathing right now, you will be leaving. So this book I'm writing now called Certainty, Guaranteed and Inevitable. That's my code name for it. And it's about facing mortality. And when I used to tell, I was on a show one time, David, and I was on with these life extenders, these people going to extend life forever. And the guy said, the interviewer said, well, Wayne, what do you think if people follow your diet will happen? He said, you can live 125 years. And the interviewer lady looked at me, she said, Daniel, what do you think? I said, I think that bastard should be put in jail. I said, because who in the world wants to live to 125 years?
I saw my dad's brother. He lived to be 101. And I saw him at the casino when he was about 97. And I said, Uncle Johnny, how are you? How you been? And you look great. He goes, bullshit. I don't look great. He goes, I'm 97 years old. I just want to die. I'm ready to die. It's over. He lost his wife 12 years before. He goes, it's just, es todo. Es todo. It's time. I just want to die in my sleep. And that's all he talked about. He was fed up with it. He was 97. He was done. Long overdue done.
But you need the three things, David. You need to know your life had value. You need to know you need to know closure. You have to structure closure, and then you need permission. Yeah, I would have sat down with him, and I would have told him, if I didn't know him, but you could sit down with him, and you'd be able to talk about it, and then talk about what's left. Because what happens is you have to structure in their mind closure. Yeah. Because we fight for life, and because we don't know what's next, and we think we're going to die, we're going to go to heaven or hell, or there's nothing. Okay, that's it. So you structure it. I've done this for 46 years, thousands of people, not one person, thousands of these. And I study it because I know nobody dies. I know it doesn't happen. Okay, so watching how people deal with it, because what happens in palliative and end-of-life care, David, is the power place in all of humanity. Birth and transition are the places of power. Okay, so if you can help people deal in end of life, which is where I specialize, palliative and end of life care, that's where I specialize, because there is where you can back engineer healthcare. Right there, you can back engineer it. And you can look at people learning how to live and take care of their life not out of fear, but to be able to get their job done. And when you think your job's done, just like Uncle Johnny, when you think your job's done, you need a structured plan for how you're going to leave. Because once he sets in his mind closure, well, I want to do this. I want to play 25 more. I want to come gamble 25 more times. He's in his mind setting up transition. So he bought 4 years in a conversation with you. He had a conversation with you, and he bought 4 more years, and he was miserable.
Yeah.
And he was lonely, and he missed his wife. Like you said, people have to find closure. We are great, powerful beings, okay? And we make the difference. In the things that go on in our life and our world, we are the difference it makes. Because if you look at how stressful it is, what happens if you were not in it? What happens if you weren't doing it? What happens? Then you see how valuable you become. People let people take advantage of them. All people in trouble need somebody to take care of them. Now, they think they do because they need somebody to come save them. Well, I don't want to bust anybody's bubble, who all that religious stuff. Nobody's going to save you from you. It's not possible. And who is the judger of you? You are. Who knows more about the reasons why you did it than you? Nobody. Once that stuff becomes clear, David, a whole different human being emerges. And spirituality is the ruler of that human being. And how balance comes into their life, okay? Because you access levels of consciousness. I mean, I hate to brag, but, I have a pretty good range on what goes on around me. And I think everybody should. And I just appreciate you letting me on this show, because if this comes true, it means that for you who are believers in the book of Revelations, for people who believe the book of Revelations, then all 3 religions coming together is set in place. That's what's happening.
Dan, and thank you. Man, I always know it's going to be a deep conversation, and it's going to hit home every time.
I don't mean it to be that, but I love everybody, David.
I mean, it's
and I want
especially
everybody.
I'm going through. I mean, with the stuff I'm going through, so it always just kind of makes me like, like I get a little choked up. But it's always a great conversation, Danny. And I just thank you for coming on. I know my audience loves you. You really help a lot.
And I love them right back, David. And thanks for having me, and thanks for letting me. If this comes to pass, all 3 religions are going to come together in the Holy Land, and all of them have to face themselves. And we as human beings have to face our spiritual self. And it means one more thing, that there is life after death, everybody. Celebrate when it happens. Celebrate it.
Thank you, Danny.
Thank you, David. And be blessed. And I'm always here if you need me.
You got it.